Oops. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekend 77 True Crime and Mystery. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Everybody's welcome. Today at Weekend 77, we are going to discuss the Delphi murder case and what we learned from the testimony today. Just to recap, this is about 13-year-old Abigail Abby Williams, along with her friend, 14-year-old Libby German, who were reported missing the evening hours of February 13th, 2017. The following day, on February 14th, 2017, the girls' bodies were discovered in a wooded area. The girls have been brutally murdered. This is what you're seeing on the screen is the official FBI flyer at the time of the investigation. Now, I repeat this every episode because this is what this is all about. Ensuring the correct person or persons are held accountable for killing these lovely young ladies. So today we are going to discuss Dr. Walla, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce your name correctly, the psychologist's testimony, along with Brad Weber's testimony, who testified after Dr. Walla. I'd just like to note that I'm not going to cover the blood spatter expert, as the coroner's testimony to the girl's injuries, along with the description of the crime scene, already tells you how the crime occurred. And as this is a gruesome crime scene, I don't think there's any value in reiterating what has already been said in regards to that. So we'll move along there to Dr. Walla, and she took the stand. This is the prosecution's psychologist to testify to the state of mind of Richard Allen and all the confessions he made to her. So Dr. Walla, and I'm just going to, I'm not going to go verbatim through her testimony. I'm just going to recap it. Dr. Walla, during the time that she was conducting these sessions with Richard Allen, she was also participating in discussion groups online, and she was doing this before Richard Allen became her patient, during the time he was her patient, and afterwards. So, Richard Allen at the time, uh, they incarcerated him in prison. He was involuntarily, so he didn't take these drugs voluntarily, okay? So they were injected. And one of the drugs was Halidol, and it's a very powerful drug. Very, and along with that, they were giving him Prozac. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind as you listen to anything Dr. Walla has to say, because these are powerful drugs that alter people's state of mind. So the details of the crime that Dr. Walla testified to was that Richard Allen told her they were all in the public domain already. And just because the press cherry picks what details they publish, it doesn't mean those other details are not known by some members of the public, okay? The other issue is what Dr. Walla testified to in regards to the sticks on the girls. Like, she said that Richard Allen had told her he had placed the sticks on the girl. Now, this just goes to show you, actually, that Richard Allen really didn't know what the crime scene originally looked like, because he omitted this detail, which a lot of people do. So, but the press, after hearing this testimony, are all running out to their microphones reporting that this proves Richard Allen's guilt. But that's not a true representation of what the actual crime scene looked like when the girls were first discovered. Now, the chap, along with three others that very first, before the police were there, discovered the girls, in his statement back in 2017 said when he saw the girls, they were covered in sticks and leaves. Now, there's the part everybody leaves out. That's why they first didn't notice them, because there wasn't just these sticks on the girls, there was a whole bunch of leaves covering the girls. So this is why the chap said he didn't notice. The group of four didn't notice. It was the deer that were near the girls is why they looked in that direction, and then they saw the girls. Now you have to remember from the DNA expert's testimony, there were animal hairs found on Abby's shoes. Okay, they didn't specify what animal. I don't think they tested those hairs. But anyway, just so to put it in perspective there. So the chap then stated that they brushed the leaves off the girls to see if they were still alive, which you would do, right? Normal reaction. But now we get to 2024, and true to the majority of these witnesses in this case, and I don't get it, there must be something in the water in Delphi, he's changed his testimony to fit the prosecution. He totally omitted talking about the leaves, only talked about the sticks. Oh boy. But anyway, um, so apparently now this Dr. Walla, she was investigated for misconduct and she was fired from her position. So when you read through her entire testimony, you get to see that not only is it suspect, this testimony, in many aspects, her code of conduct, such as shredding her notes, which is actually a violation of professional conduct under the National Psychologist Society, demonstrates her total disregard for accuracy. Now, see, this is you got to remember, she's in charge of the psychiatric care of a person who has been charged with a horrific murder. Okay, so if you're an ethical person, in my opinion, if you are an ethical person, you would not destroy your original notes. Everybody, like most people, okay, if you take notes and then you recap those notes in a document online, you tend to leave out little details, right? Because you're polishing up what your informal notes are saying. So sometimes you'll miss out on important details. So this is why, under the guidelines of the National Psychology Society, it's a misconduct because those original notes are very valuable, okay, for information purposes and accuracy. Okay, so multiple times during her testimony, the defense, with previous sworn statements that Dr. Wallace made, demonstrated that she had changed her testimony from the statements she made at trial yesterday. Okay, I hope I didn't make that as clear as mud. Okay, so what they did was, okay, when she was originally deposed, let's say a year ago, I'm just that they, I don't know when they first deposed Dr. Walla and took her statements, but from that point to yesterday's trial, her testimony changed, okay? Because her testimony went from probably closer to the truth to fitting the prosecution's narrative, okay? That's how it went. And if you read through her whole testimony, you can see multiple times where she originally would say one thing when she was first deposed, and now she's saying something totally different. So you have to take that into consideration when evaluating her testimony. So, and the other thing is she never bothered to explain to the jury that these drugs that they were involuntarily giving to this Richard Allen chap, like, they're mind altering drugs. I mean, they cause you to have delusions, paranoia, all kinds of things. So anybody who's on these type of drugs, you could probably coach them into saying and doing all sorts of things. And I don't mean just this Richard Allen chap. I mean the average person, especially if you're not used to having these drugs. Like, I don't know if this Richard Allen chap was on any of these types of medications before or not. I have no idea. But so you got to take that into consideration. The drugs he's on, the conditions he's held in. You have a psychologist who isn't has a fleeting familiarity with telling the truth. So when you read her testimony, you have to take all that into consideration. And all the things that Richard Allen testified to, saying, I killed the girls, I threw sticks on them, and I saw the white van, so I killed them quickly. You have to take that all with a grain of salt, because you're talking to this person is not of stable mind when they're making these statements. Let's put it that way. So next we have Brad Weber testified. Now on this slide you see, okay, sorry, I'm going to back up a bit here. He testified he lived very close to the Monon High Bridge, and for some reason folks have taken his testimony to confirm that what Richard Allen confessed to Dr. Waller meant Richard Allen was guilty. Okay, here's the statement that Richard Allen made to Dr. Waller. He was interrupted by the sight of a white van going along the road, so he killed the girls quickly and fled. Okay, now this is in dispute. Dr. Waller's testimony is accurate or not, okay? Because apparently when she was first deposed, she said something else to what this statement she said in her testimony yesterday. Okay, so you folks decide what you want to do with that, but it's in dispute apparently. So my opinion is she is not, she proved herself when she read through her entire testimony, to have a fleeting acquaintance with the truth. So I don't believe a word this Dr. Wallace says, to be honest with you. I think she's some sort of glory hound, or I don't know what she's up to. But anyway, having said that, I thought, okay, let's see. Could you stand at that crime scene and actually see the 625 West Road? So what I've done is, okay, here on Google Maps, the red balloon is where Brad Weber lives, according to records. Now, I don't want to give out his exact number of his house, okay? So if you see that, like, he lives before you even get to the Monon High Bridge. So I'm curious as to see if maybe I've got the wrong address, but according to records, this is where this chap lives, Brad Weber. And if that's the case, you couldn't possibly see from the crime scene to where his house is. It's just possible. You wouldn't have seen his van on the road. And I'm even curious if a van drove along the 625 West and went under the Monon Bridge all the way around to see, you see that property on the right? Okay, that's the last property. So that stretch of the 625 between the Monon High Bridge and that last property on the right, if a vehicle of any, like any description, a white van or whatever, was traveling along there, if you were standing at the crime scene, could you actually see that vehicle going by? So to me, if you look at the topography and you look at the tree density and the distance, like, my eyesight's not the best. So I doubt I would be able to see, but perhaps someone else could. So what I did was, you see this screenshot is standing at the crime scene, and you're looking across the creek towards the south end of the Monon High Bridge, okay? Now, this is without the leaves on the trees or anything like that. Okay, so now the whole Monon High Bridge ends off into the forest on the south side. It doesn't end once you've crossed the creek. The bridge ends further south into the forest. So I don't know. I've sort of outlined there where that road should be. So I don't know if anybody can see it there or not. Like, I can't, but like I said, I don't have the best eyesight. So possibly you could. I don't know. So on this slide, the screenshot on the left is from the crime scene, again, looking across the creek. And I just wish to give you a look at how thick the trees are, okay? You wouldn't, from this screenshot, you wouldn't be able to see the road. But it's just the thickness of the forest I want you to see, because the road is yet another possibly 100 feet or 150 feet from the crime scene. So, and on the right, what that is a photograph taken, a screenshot of a photograph taken from the south end of the Monon High Bridge, um, looking down at that's 625 Road West. Okay, so it's not like a paved road. It's more like a dirt gravel type road. That's the road that Brad Weber lives on. That's what the road looks like. And if you look straight, that's looking through the forest towards the creek. Now, not the crime scene, but towards the creek. So I just wanted to give you an idea. This is what the area looks like. Some people have the great ability to see through thick forests like that for quite some distance. But like I said, it's at least, you're looking at least 100, maybe 150 feet. So I don't know if you would be able to see a vehicle on that dirt road there through the forest from the crime scene. So Brad Weber testified that he drove home that day and pulled into his driveway at approximately 2:30 p.m. People, for some odd reason, have reported that this fits the prosecution timeline. However, according to the data from Libby's cell phone, that is not the case. The data from Libby's cell phone recorded the last movement of her phone was at 2:32 p.m. Now, just prior to that, the cell phone recorded from 2:18 to 2:25 p.m. the phone was stationary. Then, from 2:25 to 2:32 p.m., the phone moved, recording an elevation of 2 floors, which iPhone measures each floor at 10 feet. So my question is, an elevation is in the prosecution timeline or the route the prosecution contends the girls walked is the 2-floor elevation. Elevation is recorded on iPhones only when you walk up, not down. Walking down the hill would not be recorded on the iPhone as a change in elevation because, again, elevation is up. Based on the data from Libby's iPhone 6S, Brad Weber's testimony, if accurate, of when he arrived home, because there was some dispute as to that as well, it has no bearing on what happened to the girls at the time. Like none, unless you can see through the forest from the crime scene to the road. But then if Brad Weber actually lives where that red balloon is, then this is all irrelevant. Now, Brad Weber got into a kerfuffle with the defense at the end of his testimony. It was very short. He wasn't on the stand very long. At the end of his testimony, the defense attorney handed Brad Weber a subpoena. Okay, so this is why they got into this kerfuffle. It's early in the investigation, the Delphi police tested Brad Weber's gun, and this is years ago, which just happens to be the same type of gun that Richard Allen owns, to compare a spent round from Brad Weber's gun to the spent round found at the crime scene. Okay, the test results were inconclusive. So again, this attempt to match a spent round to a gun is, again, fantasy forensics, but the results being inconclusive demonstrates that the spent round could have come from any gun at any time. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll see what happens in court today. Should be interesting. And thank you so much for listening. I look forward to all your feedback. Please leave your feedback in the comments section, or you're welcome to email me your feedback at ybentleydavidson@outlook.com. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. It's free. Until next time, remember, every day is a gift.